Hi, I'm Cassie from Me Time. This is a mini tutorial about putting together a quilt sandwich and stitching in the ditch. I'll demonstrate these techniques with a quilt top made from pre-quilted, perfectly pieced blocks and borders. So the quilt sandwich is made out of 3 different pieces. You have the back, and then you have extra batting, and then the top of the quilt. So the first layer is the back, and we're going to start with that. When you cut your back, you want to make sure that it is several inches bigger than the quilt top. This is to accommodate for shifting and pulling when we do all the stitching in the ditch. And we're going to spread that out and get it prepared so that we can put the second layer on, which is going to be the extra layer of batting. Alright, so for batting, we recommend it is also a little bit bigger than the top of your quilt, at least an inch or so bigger on all sides. So we're going to lay that out next. Something that you can remember is that if your batting isn't the correct size, you can always piece it together. Okay, so for all of your quilts, we recommend anything that's larger than a 22 by 22 to have that extra layer of batting. So we're going to spread that out on top of our back, and then we're going to take a spray adhesive. And we're going to just give it a little shake, and we're going to do this in sections. We're going to pull back the first corner here, and then we're going to make sure it's laying nice and flat, and we're going to give it a spray. And we're going to take our batting and bring it back over, and we're going to smooth it out. And then what we'll do is we'll slowly move our way through the whole quilt, spraying little sections until it's all stuck down nice and taut. Alright, so after you get the back and the batting stuck down, we're also going to stick down the front. And this we're going to do with the same spray. Just spray it on. And then take it and smooth it nice and flat. Now it does help to do this in a wide open space where you have plenty of room to lay it out nice and flat. As I mentioned before, sometimes your batting isn't the correct size, and sometimes you need to also piece together your back fabric. The back fabric, you'll make a simple seam, but your batting, we're going to put them together and we're going to zigzag stitch right along the seam lines, and I like to call it Frankensteining your batting just because it's kind of fun. So we're going to take our batting and we're going to put it side by side, and we're going to just give it a quick zigzag stitch to join it together. And we want to line up that seam line right at the center of your foot. So we're going to go ahead and stitch a zigzag. Alright, it ends up looking just like this. Simple, just a nice join, and because it's a zigzag, I think it looks like Frankenstein. So that's how you join your batting together. So the next step is to stitch in the ditch. What that means is we're going to stitch around each of these blocks right here in the seam line so that the back and the batting and the front are all joined together. The best way to do that is to start in the very center of your quilt and work your way out. And it's a good idea to kind of road map it. What we don't want to do is go around one block 6 times and then another block once. So it's a good thing to start right in the center and then work your way out to the ends of your quilt. Where my quilt has 4 rows, I don't have a designated center block. So I can start with either of these that are in the middle of the quilt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the X here on the quilt, and then I'm going to go around the square here, and then I'm going to move to the next block and just work my way out. If you happen to have a stitch in the ditch foot, that makes this a lot easier, but you can do it with a regular foot as long as you have a center mark so that you have something to look at to make sure you're getting right in the ditch. We do recommend that you use the same color thread that you used for your quilting, or to go ahead and use invisible thread. Either work fine. Where this is a bigger quilt, it's a little bit difficult to get all of that fabric into the machine. So we're going to take our excess fabric and we're going to roll it so that it is kind of a nice little cinnamon roll there. We're going to take our slap bands. We're going to slap it so that it can hold that quilt out of our way. You can go ahead and use as many as you want. I happen to have 2 right now, but you can slap as many help hold your quilt out of the way. So this is because it's going to be in here in the throat of my machine. So I'm going to take it and slide the skinny part under the foot and put the excess fabric here into the throat of the machine. And get my block centered so I can start stitching in the ditch. Ready, guys? So I'm going to pull my block toward me since I stitch forward, and I'm going to line everything up right here in this center seam line. So I'm going to put my foot down, and then I'm going to lower my needle. And what I'm looking for is that everything is lining up, and I don't want to start stitching until I see my needle in the right place. So once everything is lined up and your needle is where you want it to be, look at your center line on your foot right here and make sure that it's following along with your seam line. And go slow. This is not something that has to be done quickly. So let's get started. So if you can see, I'm going just really nice and easy. And what I'm doing is while I'm stitching, I have a hand on the big cinnamon roll of my quilt and another hand on the outside, and I'm just easing it along at the same time. Okay, when you get close to the other end, we don't want to go into our sashing. So we're going to go really slow and make sure we stop right in the ditch if possible. Sometimes I like to just guide the needle by twisting it for that final stitch. Okay, so when I get to the end, I'm going to lift my needle out, make sure that it's clipped. Then I'm going to lift the presser foot, and I have to rotate my quilt all the way around. And what we're going for is this opposite line of that X. And you might have a little bit of extra bulk, but that's okay. It'll kind of work itself in. And again, we're going to line up that foot, and then we're going to line up the needle, make sure everything is lined up before we take a single stitch. Okay, and now we get to do the next one. Remember, if you have a lot of bulk in here, that keeps moving along. Slow down as you get to the corner. And now this time, since we have done both of the inner seams, we can leave the needle where it is, lift up our presser foot, rotate our quilt so that it saves our spot. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch around the square. So we're going to get everything situated, lower our foot, make sure our fabric are on either side of that center line, and then continue stitching. Just make sure you're moving the quilt with you. It's a little bit heavy now, so you gotta help it along. Okay, as you get close to the corner, don't go too quick. And then, again, leave your needle in, lift your foot, and turn the corner. Get everything situated again, and then continue stitching this line. Okay, now we started in the middle of this last edge, so we're only going to stitch right to where we started. So we're going to turn it one final time. Line it up, and then give it a stitch. Okay, and just like that, we've stitched around one of our blocks. So the thing to remember is don't forget to do all of the little cornerstones, and so stitch your blocks and your cornerstones. That'll get the top and bottoms of these as well, and you'll end up stitching around every piece of your quilt. Thanks for joining me for this mini tutorial. This project is from the Perfectly Pieced subscription by MeTime, which is for machine embroidery. Perfectly Pieced gives you perfect blocks every time. We deliver complete machine embroidery experiences right to your door with files, instructions, fabric, and notions, so you can start creating beautiful quilting projects the moment you're ready. Find more about MeTime at metimedelivered.com or follow the link below. Please like and subscribe for more machine embroidery content. Now go enjoy some well-deserved me time.